Hey everyone, it's the Creative Farm Girl here. We are going to be talking about rest today. So if you don't have your comfortable boots on, get them on right now, get all cozy, and we're going to talk about rest. Hello. Today we are talking about rest, or in church terms or Jewish terms. Well, Jewish terms it's called Shabbat. In regular church terms, we just call it the Sabbath, and it is technically a day of rest. And it is something that most people in our society have no idea how to do. I mean, it's one thing to take a 20-minute nap, but it's a whole nother thing to set aside an entire day to rest. Now, there's one thing that we all have an equal amount of, whether we're teenagers or collecting Social Security or somewhere in between all that, and that is time. We're all given the same amount of time, and most of us feel like we never have enough of it. We feel like we're always scrounging around, burning it late, getting up early, trying to squeeze in as much activity as we can in the time that God has allotted to us. And certainly I never considered that there really was time in my week to set aside, especially an entire day to set aside just to be with God, enjoy what He's given me, rest, take a nap, study the Bible without having to answer all these questions and do it for a particular study, but just to read the Bible just for the sake of reading the Bible. I never thought I would ever have time to do that in my week. And lately, actually it's been probably the last 3 years, was when I first started hearing podcasts, reading books, hearing speakers, and they would all touch upon this idea of rest and the importance of it. And the idea that if you really want to grow your relationship farther with Christ, you need to build in time to rest. So I pulled out the Bible and started looking through all the scriptures that talked about Sabbath, and I came across, there's many in there, but one that especially hit me was Exodus 16. Now, in Exodus 16, we find the Israelites. They have escaped Egypt, they've escaped the Egyptians, and now Moses has brought them into the desert. And there is no food, and they are complaining.
God, what are you thinking? You brought us all the way out here in the desert, and now there's no food? What are you expecting? God, come on, we need some help here.
So the Lord, being very reasonable and not wanting them to die, says, okay, I'm going to rain down manna, which is a type of bread. I'm going to rain down manna from heaven every day. And every day I'm going to just give you enough for that day. And on the 6th day, I'm going to give you twice as much. So gather enough for the 6th day and the 7th day. So sure enough, manna comes down from heaven, and Moses says, okay, people, everybody, just collect what you need for today. Really? Really, Moses? Come on. I will tell you, I grew up in a house where toilet paper was like manna. There was just enough for that day. And today I'm not taking any chances. If you go into any of my bathrooms today, you will find at least 10 to 12 rolls in every single bathroom, because toilet paper is not manna. You don't just have to have enough for the day. It's okay to have extra. However, manna is a different story, and God specifically said only keep enough for that day. But those crazy Israelites, they wanted to save some. And so some of them set it aside just in case they needed more in the morning, just in case maybe it wouldn't show up. Well, the next morning they saw that the manna that they had collected had maggots in it, and was smelly. So Moses was a little frustrated with them because they hadn't followed directions. And so the 6th day comes around and Moses says, "People, listen, it's the 6th day. Collect enough for today and for tomorrow. You can bake it, you can boil it, you can do whatever you want, but save some for tomorrow." Okay, again, if I were back then, I would raise my hand and be like, "Hey, Moses, remember what happened 3 days ago when I tried to save the manna and my tent, it still stinks. So I don't know about that." Of course, that's just me. The scripture says that these people did collect enough and that when they woke up on the 7th day in the morning, the manna was not smelly, it had no maggots, it was perfectly good for that day. If you ask me, that suspiciously sounds like a big fat miracle. So as I thought about that scripture, I realized that, what God intended manna for the Israelites, He's given to us in time. He's given us time each day not to be saved for the next day, not to be wasted, because if we don't use it today, then it is gone and it's not able to be recovered. So there's this miraculous thing that happens when we set aside time in our week just for Him. Then He supplies us with the time we need to accomplish everything we need to accomplish. At least that's what has happened for me, is that when I have really dedicated time each week or each month to Him, to spending time with Him, to reading His Word, He has blessed me with more than enough time to get done all of those things plus more in my week. So I encourage you to trust God with your time. Trust Him to be faithful in supplying you with enough time when you give Him your time. And it might not be starting out from sundown to sundown, a 24-hour period where you set that aside. It might only start out as an 8-hour period or a full day or even a 4-hour period. Do what works for you and then just watch how God will be faithful and multiply that. So next week, I'm going to talk to you about what Jesus said about the Sabbath. I hope you all will join me. Thanks.